It's always like, it's not gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get AIDS, I'm not gonna get killed, I'm not gonna get shot, I'm not gonna get LWOP. That happens to other people. For the longest time, I had resentment towards one of my co-defendants because he told on me. And it was strange because
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for being on In Between the Lines podcast with us today. I just want to get to know you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, no complaints. I'm doing extremely well, considering I walked away with the win. So that was definitely a high point. I could add that as an accomplishment, having the pleasure of guarding Vanny Green. That was definitely a highlight. So.
Did you play today?
Yeah, I played early this morning. I played
you guys won?
I played I won on the first team. So.
How was that? So you could ball?
Well, I mean, I came out with the win. I'd like to think I did my part.
Well, when you're 8 feet tall, you can do a lot of things with basketball, literally.
Most definitely.
So tell me a little bit about where you're from and who you are.
I'm from Inglewood, California.
Okay.
Born and raised. I've been down 32 years. I've been traveled all throughout the state. I'm taking classes right now. I'm service facilitator. I'm peer support specialist, so I have that going. I'm in NAAA. Also doing R1 recovery first materials for peer support specialist program.
Okay. What's your nationality?
I'm a half-breed. I'm a mutant of sorts.
Yeah. What is this? What am I looking
Well,
at
my mom was a very like progressive person. She was a hippie, so I'm biracial. You know, so my mom is Norwegian, Swedish, and my dad is African American.
From Inglewood, both.
From Inglewood. Well, no, my mom is originally from North Dakota. Her family's from North Dakota and Minnesota. My biological dad is from Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay.
But he was sent to Detroit when he was 9 years old, raised mostly in Detroit from 9 to 19. He joined the military, came out and served in the Army up north in the Bay Area.
Oh, so he was a military rat.
Yeah, my grandfather served in World War II, Milton Leonard Wick, Sr., right? So on that, it's particularly on my mom's side of the family. So I have it on both sides, the Army on my dad's side and the Army and the Marines and the Navy on my mother's side.
And were you raised by your father?
I was raised by a man that I've known as my father since I was from the age of 2. He adopted me. He married my mother in '75, and then I had 2 sisters. So we had the same mom, different dads, but he was the only man I ever knew until I was 12. And then I actually found out that my biological dad stayed in the Bay Area. And so it was one of those like got you moments.
But you had no idea?
I had no idea up until that point, no.
That he was your biological dad?
That he wasn't my biological dad.
How was that for you?
I was 12, so at the time I was like a preteen. I didn't too much care. It wasn't something like, it wasn't traumatic. It wasn't one of those meltdown moments like, oh God, this is gonna, I wasn't even particularly curious
to meet him or anything.
Like, do I have any brothers or sisters? And then the older I got, right, especially when I ended up in here, it's like maybe I need to look into that. Maybe that's something I need to pursue. So I had, at one time, I think this might have been 2003, I got on a pen pal service called MA Classified. And I met a friend and I was telling her my whole story, similar to this. And she was like, oh, that's interesting. Have you ever thought about trying to locate him? And I'm like, well, I know his name. I know he's a firefighter. He works, in San Francisco. So she's like, well, why don't you just write a letter and I'll just print out like a form letter and then let's see where it goes. And he reached out to him. He got back to me. And so I was in constant contact with him for 17 years up until he had his stroke in 2017. And although I'm still in contact with him from time to time, it's kind of hard to make out some of the things he said because his speech is kind of slurred. But that was definitely like a somewhat of a full circle moment for me.
Definitely.
Because it kind of put the pieces together. So I don't have that nagging thought in the back of my mind.
What if or how or what?
Yeah, the would'ves and could'ves and should'ves, right? So yeah, that was a relief.
So what was your life like growing up in Inglewood? What did you do? What were you into?
It was blissful for the most part. I think a lot of things that we normalized or that we typified weren't normal at all. But I think it was a different era, it was a different time. I think people are a lot more willing to, not hold it against you. So the smoking, the drinking, I wasn't exposed to like a lot of drugs. Those were usually things that I found on the outskirts of the community. But I wasn't really tempted by those things. Childhood, I had both my mom and my dad, so I had it better than a lot of other people. So I didn't really have complaints in that regard, but it got hectic at home at times. You know, my father and I, we had a very tumultuous relationship, to put it mildly. There's a lot of physical stuff that went on, and I resented it at the time. I didn't feel that it was wrong. I didn't like it. I know how it made me feel.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things I became very aggressive, right? I was already kind of dealing with little things I had in my life where I was mixed. You know, in the 4th grade, I was already as tall as my teacher. I had big feet. I hadn't grown into my body yet. So I had all the, you know, my mom was my barber, so I had strange haircuts, you know, typical things like that. But I mean, I was a fairly normal kid, but as I got older, it always seemed like I had people that kind of wanted to like touch on a nerve, right? And I was like sensitive. Those insecurities weren't about them, they were about me. I think I looked at that time, you know, now I know of the victim creator mindset.
Yeah, because being mixed and tall and cool haircuts is like, people love that now.
Yeah,
So,
I'd be in. I'd be like a hipster doofus or something.
You'd be like the coolest guy on campus.
Yeah, you know what I mean, go figure. But I mean, this is the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, back
you
in
know?
the day, you were making fun of it. Yeah, so every little thing that was to you like an insecurity
Yeah.
got touched upon, and it triggered that anger, that resentment.
Well, yeah, I think I magnified it, right? I think there was no, there seemed to be no end in sight because I tried so much. I think what kind of exacerbated it was the fact that I felt like a fraud, and I knew it.
In what sense?
When you're not your authentic self, right? I mean, you can do so much in every group. There's, you know, a hierarchy, right, or a pecking order of how things go. You know, you're either the ultra popular person, or if I hang around you enough, then maybe I'll become popular. Some of that, you know, popularity will rub off on me, right? And so I did what I needed to do. I think that's why sports appeals to a lot of people, especially as kids or like the military, whatever, that sense of belonging.
Like it being on a team.
Yeah, but I was always like, if I hung out, and you know, this is Inglewood, it's predominantly Black, Latino. There's still a few whites in Inglewood in the 70s and early 80s. There's some Asian population, you know, Tongans. But I would always get the, you know, when I started becoming interested in girls and whatnot, oh, what are you? And I'd be like, well, I'm Black. Because I identify as being Black. But they're like, but you're Black in what?
Yeah.
So no matter how I phrased it or no matter how I responded, it was always that. And so the colorism that goes on in the community of, oh, you ain't really Black, but you're Black, but you're not Black like that.
You never really like fit in anywhere.
Yeah, you don't really fit in, right? And so that just, it taps on that nerve again, right? And I think, I wish I could go back and tell the younger me, like, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay, just ride it out. This storm shall pass, right? But, you know, when you're that young, everything is like frantic. Everything is like the sky is falling, right? And so I would go into different spaces and I'd occupy different hats, right? And, you know, attempt to kind of cloak these insecurities of mine, right? So I wasn't real big on drugs. I used to drink. I wasn't a real big, you know, I smoked the occasional pot, but that stuff was abundant because it was free. Right. You could almost get it in, you know, 4-finger dime bags, and people used to just give it away. But, and I was fortunate in that sense that I didn't. And in the one instance that I did actually have some pills, I actually overdosed. So that was another reason why I was like, you know what, maybe I need to just.
It's not for you.
Yeah, altogether, you know.
So what was your thing? What was your vice?
My vice was alcohol. Okay. Because it was one of the things to where it's, I'm outgoing, you know, I'm wired that way, right? It's kind of, my mom's kind of like a communicator, a talker, you know, kind of goofballish. And I think alcohol played into that narrative, right? Like I'm the fun guy, but then if things got out of hand, it was also Popeye. Now this is my spinach and this is what I'm gonna use to kind of, so it was a very, I was like a very damaged person. I don't think it was a quality thing of me being good or bad. I think I was just misdirected. Right. I was being pulled in all these different places. And the root of it all was me. It wasn't, these people were living their lives and doing what they needed to do, right? And it was just like, well, whatever can get me out of feeling like this, let me get to that. Right. And it seemed like the more I did that, the further I got away from my authentic self. And so
at what age did you start getting, you know, did this life come about? Like, where did you turn to that
I would say
in your youth?
like the seventh grade.
Seventh grade.
The seventh grade. I used to flirt. I mean, I was a petty little dime store, hooligan. I'd do little mischievous things. I was not a, steal something every now and then, or but car stereos and stuff like that. It's typically how people ramp up, right?
Yeah. How does that happen?
Well, it's usually around. We have friends and they have older siblings. And so it's kind of like these are the things that they're doing, right? And us being nosy and being precocious, or hey, what's that about? You know what I mean? And then don't let money come involved, right? To where it's like, well, this is because if I want them new shoes you have, my mom's not gonna buy me them. I get 2 pairs of shoes when I go shopping. I get school shoes and I get play shoes. When you come home from school, take your school shoes off and go put your play shoes on. So if I want them new Jordans or the new LeBrons or whatever shoe was out at the time, it's kind of like you had to have other ways to procure currency, right? And so it was a quick way for us to make a buck. And it also brought you social capital.
Right.
Because once people seen that, you were willing to get your hands dirty, right? And then it's like, now they're not telling you to get out of here. Like, mind you, man, get out of here, man. Now it's like, oh, what's up?
Like it brought you some respect.
It brought you some respect, and it got you into certain circles that you wouldn't have been allowed to had you just been a person that was a wallflower.
And what circles did you want to get into at that time?
Most of the people that I ran with were friends, so it wasn't like
You were like gang affiliated.
No, when we were all together in elementary school, none of us were really gang affiliated.
Right.
We were like on the outer fringes, but we had family members or friends, and we knew people that were in the gang life. But it didn't really. We still had that innocence, so to speak, right? I mean, we knew of these things, we've heard of these things. Oh, it's a stabbing over here or a fight over here or something like that. But we're like, okay, because we were still a lot into sports, football, baseball, basketball, being kids. For sure. And then there became a point to where it's like, even though we're kids, no one wants to be the pansy. No one wants to be the weakest link, right? So if you somehow take a sudden turn to where you become more aggressive or you become more assertive, and it starts off innocently enough, because even as friends, I might joke with you, but a lot of things are said with a smile on the face, but it's really contempt. I comment on your figure, or I comment on a feature on your face or your clothes, and people laugh, oh, that's hilarious, right? But it's really my way of tearing you down. But then once the group kind of clings to that, it builds your power base. So now I either get with what you're doing, right, and attempt to keep up, or I do it in the opposite direction to challenge you, which comes with its own set of risks, because now maybe you and I aren't friends at all now.
So then what did you do? Which side did you choose?
I chose the darker side, unfortunately, because a lot of my friends that actually genuinely care for me stayed in a lot of the lanes that they were already accustomed to. I think a lot of it had to do with family. If the family was more close-knit, I noticed that there was a tendency of them, though, they might veer off the trail a little bit, but they kind of never lost sense of who they were. It's almost like, for me,
they had like a ground, and they had like a foundation, solid foundation they can come back to, like a home, basically.
Exactly.
So what does the darker side look like to you? What was that like?
Strangely enough, right, a lot of it was things that I had already been exposed to. So, now that I look at it, I go, wow, that's, because I've taken self-help classes and I know about trauma, right? But they were very traumatic experiences, right? But at the time when we looked at it, I grew up, Century Boulevard was what they refer to as a known blade or a holstro, as well as Prairie, as was Imperial. So when, they would send us to the store, and it was like, we had a store on Century, which was considered the corner market. I could go to that one, but I couldn't go to the Westerner liquor store, which was across Century Boulevard, like 5 lanes of traffic. So my mom's like, you can't go over there. But when you tell a kid they can't go over there, that's exactly why you want to go over there. Yeah. And when you go over there, you got the pimps over there, you got the hustlers over there, you got the prostitutes over there, you got all the people of ill repute over there, right? And we're kids, they're not going to do anything to us. But we want to be nosy. We want to rubberneck, and what are they doing? Maybe, we used to go over there. I remember some of the women that worked there would say, hey, walk me down here to this burger stand on Inglewood Avenue and Century. And I'm like, why does she need a kid to walk her down the street to a burger stand? But understanding when somebody explained it to me, oh, she doesn't want to walk down there by herself because, there are other women that work down there that won't let her come down there. But if you're with her, they won't mess with her. And then I'm like, oh. But then when I take her down there, oh, here's $10 or here's $5. Oh, for that? Just for walking a block? All right. But I look at it now like, look where you're going. I'm not walking to Disneyland. I'm not walking to the White House. I'm walking into a shadier, an even shadier or more questionable part of the community. So
the progress was like small things that happened as you got older.
Yeah.
That you continued to like accept and think was normal.
Yeah.
And then at one point you get to something bigger.
Well, the increment, I think that's the danger in it, right? Because I think you become inured to something to where, you know, we talk about somebody that's nose blind, right? To where you no longer have a strong sense of smell, right? I think that happens too with our GPS system, our sense of direction, our homing beacon, right? Like our signal's weak. The further we get from home, it's like the ping is weak, right? But we're so far out there because whatever it is you're following, it's like when you go to the beach and you get in the water and you're only up maybe to your waist. And you just looked at your mom and them on the picnic blanket out on the sand, and now you're 50 yards this way because the tide is
sure.
imperceptibly taking you down there, right? And I think it's the same with a lot of our relationships, right? There are times where maybe I should have cut it off cold turkey and ran screaming in the opposite direction, right? But I think this is part of the price you pay when I spoke to earlier about being a fraud.
Right.
And I think even then I knew you're gonna pay for this. I don't think that it would be something as disastrous as this. You know, Pac used to have a line. He used to say, in so many tears, he'd say, who thought in elementary I'd see the penitentiary?
Yeah.
So it's always like, it's not gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get AIDS, I'm not gonna get killed, I'm not gonna get shot, I'm not gonna get LWOP. That happens to other people. And then, you know.
How did that happen to you?
I caught my first case in the state for great bodily injury that I ended up doing like a 90-day observation. So off the 90-day observation, you might do 45 days.
Great bodily injury? What is that?
That's like they have different degrees of it in the state of California, but great bodily injuries is like broken bones.
And how old were you during this time?
I was 19.
Okay.
I was 19. It was a brawl. It was a typical brawl up at Lenox Park. It was much like a melee. It was probably like 10 on 10 or whatever. And I remember one of the guys got hurt. I think he got his eye or something was like dislocated or something. And they like, hey, you're facing 7 years. But because this is your first offense, they have what they call a joint suspension, where they basically suspend the sentence, but they give you what they call a tail, right? So you go do 90 days. It's like a review period. It's like a probationary period. They see if you're willing out the program, if you're even jail material yet. But here lies the trick. Most of us, right? It's like with anything. Somebody being tortured. They just want the torture to stop. So I'm gonna tell you what you want. I just want I want the pain to stop. When you're in here, you just want this to stop. I don't like being in prison. I don't like. Maybe you're claustrophobic. Maybe you don't like small spaces. Maybe you don't. You're like, what do I need to do to go home right now? Well, look, we got this. Now, if I told you, I'm gonna give you this 45 days, these 90 days, you're only gonna do 45, and you can get out. You're like, oh,
I could do
that
this.
sounds. You talk with your family. Oh, that sounds like a plan. With one caveat: if you mess up and you get arrested again, doesn't matter what that case is. That 4-year tail is yours, without question, non-negotiable. So on top of you fighting the new case, whether you beat it or not, they have you on the 4-year tail, right? So I got caught for another incident, for a robbery. They gave me, they really did me justice in the sense that they could have ran it bow-legged, but they chose not to. They just ran it consecutively. They gave me 4 years. Instead of giving me, they could have gave me 3 and 4, which would have been 7.
Why were you robbing?
Lazy money. You know what I mean? I had work ethic. It was strange because I had construction jobs. I had worked construction jobs under the table because I wasn't a licensed contractor. But I had friends. I had a friend named Belisi. He's actually a brother of one of the women I used to talk to. It's her older brother. And he used to give me jobs. We used to go out to Palos Verdes or Century City, Studio City, and do retaining walls and driveways and, you know, things like, you know, pavement, you know, and it was honest money,
But not enough.
but not enough for what I wanted to do, which wasn't much, but I was just being lazy, being a bonehead.
So then you got caught for robbing.
Yeah.
And this is small things, big things, like houses, like what kind of robbing is it?
Businesses.
Businesses.
And it's always petty, right? Because ultimately, no matter how much money you accumulate, right? Even if you go and rob something where the take is $20 million, the toll that it's gonna take, not just on your well-being, on your psyche, on your spirit, on your family, the people that are impacted, and your victims, right? But even more so of yourself, since we're talking about like self and self-preservation, right? It's really damaging. The money does nothing. It solves nothing. Even if you get away with it, right? The fact that you have to, like if you win the lottery or you start a successful business, right? These are things that you could crow about. These are things that you can, you know, that's another feather in your cap. These are things that you could be proud of, that you can go to your family and your friends and share this moment with them. You can't do that when you're a criminal.
No.
So there's no real joy in it. I mean, they're saying there's honor amongst thieves. You know, these people are all in this cutthroat society, right? And they're not impressed with it because they're trying to do their own thing.
So then why did you keep doing these things if you didn't get any satisfaction from them?
It's a repetitive cycle. It's one of these things to where it's like there's never enough, right? At any given moment, you know, if you look at somebody that's innocent, maybe when they come off the porch and they're like a couple crimes in or something, and it tends to be, nobody just goes straight to like, you know, murder or, you know, something like that. But if they stop very early on, maybe they get back to where they once were and they get on a healthier path or a better trajectory. But being petty is one of the things I excelled at. There wasn't a lot of life experience for me to kind of like get information from. I wasn't confident in confiding in my parents, like, hey, you know I'm out here in the streets doing these type of things.
Yeah. So then what was next after that robbery that led to a deeper sentence?
I ended up getting, I did 21 months off that sentence.
The 21 months that you were in jail, like, did you learn anything? Did you get any like education on not going back to do the same thing?
I'd like to believe that I did, but I can honestly say that I didn't, in the sense that I was still chasing what eluded me on the streets. So whether or not it's, you know, the popularity, the being in with the certain chick I want to be with.
Were you in a gang?
Yeah, I was.
You were in a gang?
I was.
What, I don't know anything about gangs like that. What is it like being in a gang? And how did you get into it? Like, how did you get initiated into it?
To sum it up, 'cause I don't know if we have enough time.
Sum it up.
It's the closest thing that a person can relate to without being in a cult.
Okay.
Because typically, when you think of, you know, we speak about the doses like dopamine, Oxycontin, you know, the pleasure chemicals, right? You know, serotonin, epinephrine, right? The things that give us pleasure, the things that make us go, the things that give us pop, right? Even caffeine, right? Gamblers,
Chocolate
where they
chip
get
cookies.
chocolate, right? Where, you know, you get that excitement, you start wiggling your foot, right? Gang life is not one of those. There are very few high moments. You don't, when you get into it with people that are considered your opposition, there's no like gloating, there's no sense of accomplishment. You know, there's a difference between somebody that serves their country and you meet them and you say, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Because they've served a higher calling. Or talking to a priest or a pastor or a business person or a president or former president. But when you're talking about gang life, so much of it is based on treachery, right? And I think that's kind of, for me, is where that's the bump in the road, right? That kind of makes me question myself. More so, you know, they didn't come actively recruit me. This is an area, most of us, these gangs exist in the areas that we grew up in. So it's a stone's toss, or you might live smack dab in the middle of that particular neighborhood. So, I mean, but because we're friends, we grew up together, right? We kind of commiserate and connect on things that we can relate to, right? But these are things that are painful. These aren't things that, oh, how's your daughter doing? How's your son doing? Oh, I heard your mom's going off to become a professor at Yale. These aren't the type of conversations we're having. We're having, oh, such and such got caught. Or such and such got shot. Or you going to the funeral, right?
So why do you think it has such a big grip? Like gang life has such a big grip on people. It's such a strong entity.
It's a strong, and it's it's strange because if you look at like the politics, the global politics, right? We'll ask like, well, how can one man be a dictator and rule over millions of people, right? And people speak to fear and they speak of many of these other things. And I think that the social stigma of not belonging, because everybody in the community is not from a gang. My dad wasn't in the gang, even though they had gangs in Detroit, the Chili Max and the Rollers, they had like different gangs in Detroit. But he wasn't a gang member because he wasn't wired that way.
Yeah.
I wish I had more of that from him, right? But I chose the path that I chose. It is kind of one of these things to where I was in a conundrum constantly because as ground down as some of my ethics may have seemed to a lot of other people, a lot of observers on the outside, I actually had a conscience. There were just certain things, that's a bridge too far. I'm not doing that. It's not something that I go out and I proudly proclaim, right? Because in gang culture, typically the only taboo is don't tell, right? Which is a strange thing because if you think of like the 10 Commandments, it's like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt honor thy mother and parents, thou shalt not covet. These are like noble things. You shouldn't, those are things you shouldn't do. They're like, but you can't lie. You know what I mean? The only thing you can't do is you can't tell. But you could do all these other things. You can kill, you could rape, you could lie, just all the way through life.
That's
so
crazy.
when you tell yourself that, right?
That's crazy.
What part of you doesn't admit that there's something in me that's broken? The fact that I'm okay with this and not like, you sprung this on me today. Well, look, you know what? I'm done. Push all my chips in, I'm done. I'm out. No, you're still chasing it. And you have to be able to get to the why. And I think when you're young, you're so caught up in being a prisoner of the moment because loss, although we talk a loss, there was a guy said, about saying goodbye, right? A lot of us deal with rejection in a bad way, and we deal with loss in a bad way. So for me, if you have a social life, and these are your peers, it's kind of like now there are people that won't have anything to do with me, which is their right, and they've earned that. And I can't say that I blame them based on some of the life decisions I've made. But their life's probably better for that as a result of saying, you know what, I'm not going there with you. I'm not going to be an enabler. I'm not going to be a facilitator of that. Like, I don't want any parts of that because they understand trash in, trash out.
Yeah. That's what you didn't have when you were starting this journey in this system, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened after those 21 months?
I got out and the pattern was the same. The pattern hadn't been broke. Because until you deconstruct, until you get to, they say that which you resist persists. So throwing your head in the sand and acting like the problem isn't there, it's only gonna make it worse. You can medicate it, you could drink it away, you could go into all these various forms of denial, right? But until and for me, I know what it was.
What was it?
But it's that nagging, I'm here. I'm 54, a few months shy of 55. I've been my moniker longer than I've been Jeff. I'm Jeff to my mom. I'm Jeff to my dad, to my sisters. My daughter calls me dad, so she doesn't even call me Jeff. So you have to, what does that do to your psyche? What is the toll on your well-being, right? Or your outward perspective? When we were kids and we played cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers or whatever it was, we played strawberry shortcake, He-Man, whatever it was. At some point, your mom opened the door and said, come home, it's time for dinner. And guess what? See you guys tomorrow. And you went in, you did your homework, you took your shower, you went to bed. You knew, understand it was a role. You have people that live their entire lives living up to an alias, right? And the only reason why I don't nag and grouse as much as I could is because I have far too many friends that had their lives extinguished prematurely for a lie. That at least I can change my fate. It's not to say that God willing, one day I'll be granted freedom. But in the event that I'm not, make your bed, you lay in it. But what about those friends? What about their mothers? What about their brothers and sisters, their fathers, right? And even their friends, even though they were crappy friends, what about that loss? They're not here to where they could change it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So then your pattern is continued, and you are here now for how long have you been here?
I've been down 32 years, almost 33 years. I've been in CDC since 94, October 94.
And why did you, what was the crime that you
I had a
committed?
murder robbery.
Murder robbery.
Murder robbery.
Can you take us back to that day of what happened? Did you ever imagine that day was going to happen?
No, and I had multiple opportunities throughout that evening to kind of take a course. You know, they say they put people in your life for, you know, a purpose, a reason, or a season, right? Every person I came in contact with that night was like, "Hey, we're gonna watch these videos. You wanna hang out?" Nah, I'll be back. Went home. My mom and sisters were in there. They were eating dinner. They were gonna watch some movies. Like, "You wanna watch some movies with us?" Nah, I'll be back. Went to a buddy's house. Somebody's around Thanksgiving. "Hey, make a plate and pull up a chair. Stay a while." "Oh, no, I'll be back." And to each one of those, I never came back. And so had I acted on one of them, but that's not to say, based on my flawed thinking then, right? Who knows how it would have turned out? But I know that those 3 opportunities, right? They haunt me to this day.
They were sent for a reason. And you didn't make the right decision at that time.
Exactly.
So what did you decide to do?
I mean, I ended up committing a robbery, and the guy ended up losing his life as a result of my recklessness. I think when we kind of get into the thing of my crime in itself, right, is strange because if I could talk to like young people, whatever, right, like the impulsivity, you know, people say, "Oh, I have a lack of impulse control and all that," right? And that one little flinch, that one hesitation, right? Because you gotta understand, the worst thing you can do is arm a fearful person. Some people get a gun and it's like, well, I feel safe because I have a gun. Yeah. Maybe I can stop somebody from trying to rob me or trying to push up on me. But what happens if somebody hops out from behind that corner and you mistake them for someone that they're not, and you kill them? And now it's not something that you can take back.
Did you operate from fear that day?
I acted from instinct, right? And so misreading the situation to where it's like, that's my reaction. I'm not trained. I'm not police. I'm not military personnel. I'm not somebody that goes to a firing range. I'm a man that's desperate, that's looking for a quick buck. I want to get in and get out. Bye. And in that one tragic moment, in that instant, it's all gone.
And when that happened and you realized what happened, what was going through your head or your heart?
It's over.
You knew it.
I knew it. I knew it. I mean, I up until, I want to say 2018, I had 2 co-defendants. They're both been released. They're both in Tonga. They've both been deported to the island of Tonga. For the longest time, I had resentment towards one of my co-defendants because he told on me. And it was strange because
what are you feeling right now?
I'm like conflicted, but because this is a person that I really care for, you know. But it took me a long time because my other co-defendant used to tell me, you know, have you ever talked to Lotto? Why would I talk to him?
Yeah.
Why would I talk to him? But you know what he did? He did not necessarily what I would do, but he did what every living person wants to do. He wanted to survive. Obviously, I'm on the other end of that. It's at my expense. But how much is that on me? That's on me. And I think having to make that call and be honest with yourself. I mean, we have mirrors for a reason. They're not just to, crow or go to and have some vain affirmation. They're really about looking into self and kind of scraping past the surface. You know what I mean? And so for a long time, I had resentment towards him. Like, I was upset. I felt that he had betrayed me, that he wasn't loyal. And all those things two things can be true.
It's true.
But he did what he felt he needed to do, right? And it was strange because it took me back to being that little kid again, that insecure, that not confident. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to reclaim something that's mine, right? And I pissed it all away in that moment, right? And so I wanted to, as fate would have it, I wanted him to share, some of that burden, right? But it wasn't his. When I got in that car with him, right? Remember those 3 instances? Any given moment you could have got off. You're on the conductor on the train, hey, next stop. Hey, I'm getting off right here. Could have got off on any one of them stops. No, keep going. Keep on going, let's go. And then when you get caught, oh man, had you not did this and had you, but it's not his call. It's my call. It's not the driver's call. It's not the victim. Or if he would have responded different or reacted different, the situation would have known. This is all on you.
Yeah, it's so easy to deflect and to give the blame on somebody else, especially when it's like that big of a deal. So with Lotto, have you been able to speak with him since?
I spoke with him briefly in, I want to say, 2018. And even then, it was strange in the sense that his feeling towards it, right, was for me, I didn't know what to expect. From part of it was like, I'm interested to hear the reasoning behind, not that it changes anything, right, but like, what happened? And his response was like, very like glib, like blasé, like, oh, I really don't want to talk about that. Now this is years, this is not like last week, like this happened, like it's too soon, like we may not want to touch the subject, broach the subject because it's still too sensitive. No, this is decade, you're out. It's not like you're in here, you're out in society. I asked him, oh, how's it over there? How's everybody doing? Oh, they're doing well, right? And that's why I feel conflicted. And, it's one of these things to where it's like, you have no compunction, you have no regret, like you have no remorse, like whatsoever. And I'm not saying that you owed me, you don't owe me anything. You don't even owe me an explanation. I'm just curious, like, what do you feel about that situation that we're 3 decades removed from it? How do you feel about it now?
What do you think if he was able to, explain what you'd want to hear, what would it bring to you?
I think it brings some modicum of peace, right? I think that was, I won't say it reopened the wound because I don't think the wound it's not festering, but it's a glaring wound. Like you can tell that it's something that's still,
I can feel it,
yeah, sensitive. But no, I think it'd be nice in the ideal world. It'd be nice to like have his take on, like, hey man, we were some strange kids, man. That was obviously a very traumatic and tragic situation for us, man. But what was your take? I mean, I can tell you where I'm coming from my position. But what did you deal with? What did you go through? Like, is there some way we could put our heads together and we can maybe, but there's no like further collaboration, and it's to the point now to where it's like I wish him well.
Yeah. So that's what you'd want to say to him, if he was able to listen to this. What would you want to say to him exactly?
That.
And it seems like those for 32 years that you've been here, you've evolved and changed and learned and grown so much. What has been the biggest things being in here that has changed you into this man, this wonderful man that you are today?
Appreciation, gratitude, because despite my less than enviable set of circumstances, right? I do have people, impactful people in my life that still care for me. My mom's side of the family, they're my everything. They're my anchor. Not to say that I don't have people on my dad's side. My dad's side of the family is very small. But my dad that raised me, my sister's father, they have a pretty big family. And hey, it's few and far in between to get people that are actually, really on board with being, compassionate or understanding towards my situation. So my mom's side of the family has really been like my saving grace, so to speak.
So for the kids that are going through the same patterns and the same situations that you went through before you came in here at 22 years old, what would you say to them? Because it's really easy to tell somebody something. It's like your dad says, like, don't go down the street, but you're gonna want, like you said, you're gonna go down the street because you don't know better for yourself. And sometimes you gotta go through something to learn, right? Yeah. But what if you had the chance to actually tell somebody and stop somebody from doing what you did that day? What would you say to them?
I know it's hard for a lot of young, especially young people, to hear that it's not always personal. And I think oftentimes we respond from an emotional state, like it makes us sad, or it makes us mad, or it makes us upset, right? And so our parents are not people that we always feel comfortable confiding in, right? I would say most importantly is grant yourself grace, right? Trust yourself, trust your instinct, and what you're going through right now, believe me, it's one of these things to where you don't let it be you, right? I mean, things happen to us in life. We get, we roll with the punches on certain things, adversity, we can understand that it builds character and whatnot. But you have to always go into intent. When your parents tell you something or your loved ones tell you something, it's not from a position of I'm right or I'm the authority, right? It's coming from a place of wellness. If I know that my parents genuinely care for me and they're asking these things of me, it's because they're thinking about my well-being and my safekeeping, right? And I think that the things that we're enamored with now, the things that have this shine and this allure to us, this irresistibility to them, they don't last, right? And so the ripple effects of your actions, because your actions decide who you become, right? And so more importantly, I think it's Goethe, the German philosopher, says, that which matters most must never be at the mercy of that which matters least. So not to say that your friends are insignificant pieces of dust, but they don't possess the wisdom, the insight, right? And the life experience to give you the tools that you need to put yourself on a path that's conducive to you doing whatever it is you want to do in your life, right? And so, telling kids no, don't, right? And I know it seems repetitive, and maybe you feel like they don't understand you, but a lot of these friends that you have right now, they're not going to understand you in a couple years. There are people that I have in my, I'm blessed in the sense that I have friends that I've had since childhood, and I only have like 3 of them. Some of them have passed over. Some of them have died from overdose or suicide or gang violence, you know what I mean? But for those of it, the rest of them that are here, guess what? We're on different paths. We're on different wavelengths. And it's not personal. They don't hold anything against me. They're not wishing me ill will. It's just people change, situations change, circumstances change, right? And your parents are the only people that will know you in every phase of your life.
But what if people don't have parents or anyone guiding them? What should they focus on the most?
Self, the basics. I mean, the things of getting from point A to point B in one piece, whole. Because I think if you have a strong sense of virtue, right, you don't want to start chipping away at that. You don't want to start compromising the things that give you balance, right? And moderation is key with anything. It's one of the reasons why they talk about a balanced diet. It can't all be candy bars. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna cheat on this day because I worked out, maybe I played a little basketball, maybe I could eat a Snicker. But ideally you wanna have, whole grains and poultry and dairy, but that's your body's way of saying, look, I need these nutrients. They're vital to my well-being. It's the same thing with the things we intake, information, knowledge, or social interactions with people, how much does having this person in my life, are they an addition or are they a subtraction from my life? What are they bringing? And it has to become risk or reward, right? So you're a fun person. The risk of hanging with you is this, and the reward of hanging with this, but the risk is, whoa, hey, might not want to do that, right?
Yeah,
But
that's true.
don't be a prisoner of the moment. It's so easy to get caught up in a feeling and a vibe, right? But if you don't trust me, you can go back 6 months from now and look at all the past fads within the past 6 months.
What do you mean?
Half rolled down socks are in right now. It's the new fall fashion. We got them in pumpkin spice, we got them in lavender, and guess what? Next February, no one's gonna know where they're at. You're not even gonna be able to find a clearance sale for them, right? Because attitudes change. People's minds, the things that they're drawn to, they shift, right? And people are fickle, not to have a cynical or skeptical outlook, right? But people have the right to change their minds. What appeals to me now, I think of it a few months from now, maybe not.
So everything you're saying is really amazing. So being here for 32 years, what is the most important thing then? If fades, things fade, trends fade, what is the most important thing and what is the saving grace? Legacy?
Legacy.
What would you say is your legacy?
Although I was a late bloomer, I turned the corner. I got it. The final curtain didn't have to come down for me to try to quickly get off some God grant me serenity, let me in. I actually had my eureka moment while I was still conscious.
What was your eureka moment?
Me blowing it. The moment I told you, when you asked me what happened in that moment, it's over.
But then for the kids that are here, that are younger than you, that are also 22, that are gonna come in, and they can change and evolve here in prison, what could they do to get to a place where you're at peace and you have a legacy going on and your mindset has switched completely? What resources or what can they do to get to evolve in a positive way?
It's gonna take, and this is gonna sound somewhat harsh, but it's gonna take selfishness. And I know that's not something that people preach, but when you're a part of a herd, right? They act instinctually, which is why a buffalo herd could run all off a cliff together. But in here, you need to have blinders, and you can't have rabbit ears. You can't start paying attention to every little thing that's said, because for every person that wants to do well, there are 5 people that they're willing to sleep their time away or go out on the yard and gossip and get in rumor mongering and all that. You have to be selfish to the point where, you know what, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do to put myself on this path so that my trajectory is upward and not downward, right? There are going to always be temptations, and there are plenty in here, right? There's not a moment that passes in my day where it's like, you know what, why not? And just give up on something. But you have to trust in the process. I think a lot of us that have been doing time, right? If you can't think in here, I don't think there's anywhere on the face of the earth that you can think. Because we're kind of, although we have access to certain technologies, tablets, and get to talk to our families, that's not the same. It's not the same. It's the equivalent of me saying, I've played, a war game on TV, and now I'm a seasoned war veteran that can go over into any theater of war in the Middle East or anywhere else on the globe and be an efficient fighter. We know that's not true. Today, prime example, play basketball with people that professionally play basketball. I know for certain that I can't go in an NBA arena and shut down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Maybe in my younger, cocky mind I could, but let's be practical. You have to be practical. And there are a lot of dreams and there are a lot of things, but that's the chatter, the peanut gallery, that's never gonna go away. You have to kind of steel yourself and discipline yourself.
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision, but you have to find your peace too. There's so much chaos here, you have to be able to strike some modicum of peace. Whether it's reading, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's just going out and, conversing with people on the yard, exposing yourself to other experiences. Because I think a lot of us, we get tunnel vision and we get locked in. And we talk a lot about peer support, about cultural stigma, where that becomes a ball and chain in itself. Because there are just certain things. I remember when I was younger and my mom took us to the YMCA, like, oh, you're gonna learn how to swim. But it was fun because it's a pool, we get to learn to play in the pool. But we actually also got to learn how to swim. And I hear people, it's cringeworthy to me now. I'll see somebody on TV and they'll say, oh, black people don't swim. No, you don't swim. Don't try to let people define. And so when you start in here, you have somebody that's like, oh, Jeff's going to the self-help class. Oh, no, that's square shit. Man, I'm not doing that. I'm out here with the homies, I'm thugging.
Yeah.
I'm doing me. I got time for that. But you got time for sitting in prison. This is your idea of fun? I think not. But to each his own. I know for those that want something better from this can't possibly be your idea of better.
No way.
Right? So the deterrent is, freedom is big, right? But even with that, you have to be able to define that for yourself. Because you don't want to end up in these situations and then try to find a way to backtrack your way out, right? I think I've had moments where I've had to actually reflect on it, and it never becomes easier. In some instances, it becomes more hurtful because it's like, well, why didn't I see that? And why did I do it anyway when I knew this was the possible outcome?
Jeff, thank you so much for your time and your insight, and just all your words are really, really inspiring. And I hope that people get to hear this and understand that there's more to life than,
You did a phenomenal job. A lot of it's on the interviewer too, because it's like if you have somebody in here that doesn't know how to flow with the conversation, she'd have been here like, so tell me. I'd have been like, hey, what's going on, man? Y'all put it down?
Thank you.
I so appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, bro.